Okay. Hello, everyone. Is someone wearing a headset? Can you give me a sign if you can hear me? Can you hear me okay? Not yet? Nothing? You can. Okay, perfect. So, all right, perfect. Awesome. All right, let's get started. Yeah, welcome everyone to the AI stage. In case you were here already, I hope you enjoyed the session before with my colleague Melanie. We will have a few more sessions today, so definitely stick around. But yeah, it is my absolute pleasure to be sitting here with Milan. Milan is the founder and chief AI officer at Nextasy. Not only are they super successful lately, we're very happy with the trajectory, but they actually joined the AI Center as an affiliated startup late last year. So in this short time, it has been great to see what you have achieved. Yeah, so if you don't mind introducing
Thanks,
yourself.
Mari. The pleasure is all mine. So maybe a quick introduction. Milan came to Switzerland from Bosnia around 10 years ago to study at the University of St. Gallen first, then graduated there, then moved to ETH in 2018 and did masters there and a PhD and postdoc. And then later I co-founded a company. I did research in machine learning, applied machine learning with Stefan Feuerriegel, and then co-founded Nextasy with the guys in September 23. And since then, as you said, it's been a dynamic journey, but hope we're doing something right. So
Okay, fantastic. And I guess it's only proper that I introduce myself in case people don't know who it is that is talking here. So my name is Mauricio. I'm the industry collaborations coordinator at the ETHI Center, and I work somewhere at the intersection of industry and startups. So my job is quite fun. I get to introduce cool startups to cool companies and just watch the magic happen. But yeah, so you mentioned your trajectory moving to Switzerland, doing your PhD at one point, and then you had a previous venture before starting Nextasy.
I actually worked with one startup in between my master's and PhD, but I wasn't the founder.
Okay, I
Yeah.
see how I see. Well, in that case, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about Nextasy, what you guys are working on, and.
Yes, absolutely. So at Nextasy, we're really building what is basically the future of business administration. So with all of the technology that has come out recently, you can really automate and or augment a lot of processes in business administration using AI. So we're basically built a completely new platform, which is powered by latest technology and has all of the key essential business functionalities that SMEs need, such as document management, accounting, payroll, banking. It's all in one place, and the procedures inside it are augmented by AI. So AI prepares the work, whereas the people doing the administration, accounting offices, or in-house people within the company, they now just take the review seat. And the vision is basically to go outside of Switzerland as well, do this globally, end goal, next SAP with AI. And every company basically needs this. So it's a very, very broad use case. But on the other hand, it's something that needs to be rapidly solved, because with the technology today, people don't want to manually input data anymore. They don't want to do accounting manually anymore. They basically want work to be prepared. They want to be in the review seat. That's the feeling that we have. And another thing is they have to be in a review seat, because there is less and less people that actually want to do this, these tasks. So I think it's going to be very, very big success in the market.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that you have identified a massive pain point for for companies of all sizes. So like your smaller, small to medium enterprises, but also your huge enterprises. They all struggle with this back office
Absolutely.
operations.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so the topic of today's session is on fundraising. And in the previous session, Melanie was talking to Antonia from Founderful, and they talk about fundraising from the VC perspective, how to get a VC to invest, right? So we got their point of view. So in this session, what I want to focus on is how to fundraise from the perspective of a founder. For those of you who don't know, Nextasy raised a seed round of 3.3 million francs, pre-seed round, sorry.
Pre-seed, yeah.
Recently. Yeah, so what we want to focus on today is your journey from a researcher. Of course, you did your PhD, and eventually you co-founded this venture with a few other co-founders. So maybe you can talk a little bit more about that transition from when you were actually doing your research to when you had that like aha moment that made you decide to maybe start a venture one day.
Absolutely. So basically, I think it's a bit in my blood as well. My parents are entrepreneurs. They have many businesses back home in Bosnia, especially my dad. And my mom is an engineer, so I'm kind of picked up on both of them. I always had this kind of drive, even when I was at HSG, to kind of do something on my own, do a project, do something extra. And then after my master's, I actually worked with one startup. And then I really liked the culture there. I really liked the fast go-to-market. It's something interesting that you work on, and it moves fast. And once you build value, you can see it instantly. I started my PhD in the meantime, so this got sidelined in a way. But even during my PhD, I kind of decided in between that I want to go on found a company rather than stay in research. Even though we had very successful publications in ML journals, etc. But I enjoyed research as well, I have to say. It's just that it drove me after my PhD. I already knew I wanted to found a company. I met my co-founders beforehand. We know what we want to do. It was a preparation of maybe half a year before that, before we actually founded the company. And then we just dived into it. And I have to say, it's you have the skills that I learned during my PhD came in very useful, but you need an additional set of skills to kind of switch to different tasks as a founder, such as fundraising, such as selling, not just product development. And even product development is different than in research.
Okay. And I am super happy you bring this up. Perfect segue into more like the question and answer portion of our talk. But yeah, so today we're going to talk about, like what are the similarities of, academia to, co-founding a company, particularly in fundraising. I mean, we'll talk about business development a little bit as well. Mm-hmm. But I think when people think about academia and entrepreneurship, they think of these two opposite, polar opposite worlds where nothing really translates. So my question to you is, what have you found that actually translates quite well from, research into building your company?
Yes, I think there are a lot of parallels and definitely much more than people would think. So for one thing is, both in academia and in fundraising, what actually really accelerates your learning and success rate is having a good mentor. So I had a great mentor for my PhD, even better mentors for fundraising on how to do this. And you just need to learn from people that have the experience to do this. So I also participated in a course with Melanie, learned a lot from her, learned a lot from Antonia. She had a fantastic talk in that course. So you just need to listen and kind of get it, if you can learn from other people's experience, it's much faster. And one more similarity I would say is, Antonia actually brought this up, so fundraising is kind of science and art. The science part is having a good structure, being systematic, knowing your numbers. That is something that you learn well during your PhD as well. So you need to present the ideas in a clear, concise format. When you write a paper, it needs to be understandable. And that is something that my mentor, especially PhD mentor, helped me a lot with. I remember when I was writing papers, I would write something down which was a bit too deep, too technical, not really understandable. And then he asked me, we had a discussion, he asked me about this paragraph and everything, and I was starting to explain to him. And he was like, I know, the people that read it as a reviewer might not know, change it. So I'm really, really grateful to had him as a PhD mentor, and then the same happened in fundraising. So you need to have a clear pitch deck, the information needs to be concise, needs to go direct, even more so than in academia. But that is a skill that I definitely transferred, the way you present. And the other important thing is also always keep in mind who's the audience. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing research, writing a paper, keep in mind that this should be read by a reviewer. Even if you have a super complex piece of mathematics that you want to explain, put it in the appendix, because in the main paper it might confuse the reviewer. And this is how you can actually build success.
Okay, I see. And you touch upon of finding the right mentor, and of course it is super important to have the right guidance both in research and while starting a company. So how do you find the right mentor? And maybe you can talk about how do you find the right mentor in academia, and how do you find the right mentor in entrepreneurship?
I don't think this answer will be helpful, but honestly, I think a huge part that plays is luck in finding a good fit. So when I got my PhD, I basically reached out to a friend that was with me at ETH, and I told him I want to do a PhD, and then he mentioned his friend is doing research in Stefan's group. He introduced us, and I ended up in Stefan's group. I think Stefan, for me, was the best possible mentor. We have a great relationship. He's even advisor to my startup right now. He was kind of the perfect fit for me because he lets you do your research, and then in the end, he helps you with the paper part. And this is usually the thing that you are missing also as a researcher once you start out. You know how to code, you know how to do the experiments, but how to present it in a paper, that is definitely a skill that you develop over time. And it's also similar again with fundraising, because you think you know how to build a pitch, how you present, but then when somebody comes, you think they have the same kind of knowledge of your startup as you do, but that's not true. You need to kind of lower it down, you need to present it clearly, and then dive deeper in a different conversation. So that is something I learned, for example, in an accelerator. We're part of an accelerator backed by World Bank. I had a great mentor, Dušica. She helped me a lot with the pitch. My first pitch was much more dense with text than my final pitch, and the improvement was huge. You get the feedback from people directly.
And for those of you who haven't had the pleasure of seeing Milan in action pitching, it's actually something to behold. Just a quick side story, I guess. We had a pitching event where you came to present Nextasy, and it was a short pitch. It was 5 minutes with a Q&A portion at the end. And I remember when you sent me your presentation, your slide deck, it was something like 60 slides. And I remember being a bit concerned that how are you going to go through 60 slides in less than 5 minutes? And you actually were very calm, and you said, I got this, trust me. So we left it as is, and just seeing you perform, because at the end of the day, it's a bit of a performance as well when you're pitching, right?
Exactly. I would say that's one of the differences. So when you do research, you have time. You work on your paper. You take time before you submit it. If it's not ready for this conference, it's ready for the next one in a month. Once you get the reviews, you have 2-3 weeks to answer to the reviewers. Very calm, very structured. You can iterate, etc. In pitching, you don't have time to prepare. You don't know what to expect as a question. You need to think on your feet. And then there is this art part, not the science part, the art part of pitching, which you have when you're fundraising, which you don't actually have when you're researching. And this part is exactly this, the way you present. So my 60 slides are basically pop-ups on different slides, the way to present the information and allow people to focus to one or two things at a time. And it resonates great, which is something that you, for example, wouldn't need in research when you present. You just pop up a slide with a lot of text and you talk about it. That's it.
Right, and so it's a bit of like storytelling.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
So, and at the time when I saw you pitch, it's all very well timed. Obviously you rehearsed, took some iterations to get to that point, probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
So actually, this brings me a little bit. To we talked about the similarities of research, to funding your startup, right? So maybe let's talk about the differences. What are the things that you had to learn along the way? Maybe you can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for starters, it's the art part that we just discussed. The main difference is what I already said. You don't really have time when doing a startup to kind of perfect everything to the last detail. Of course, you should rehearse. Also, my mentor, she had a saying, if you fail to prepare to fail. So you need to be prepared. But just the time to do it is much shorter. And you cannot perfect it to 100%. You need to go to 90% and then just go in and think on your feet to make it even better. So that's one crucial difference. I would say the other one is with the research, it's also a niche audience. So you present to a paper usually to domain experts in the same field, but once you're pitching, it's general audience. Everybody needs to kind of understand it for it to resonate well. and then the people that are targeted, for example, VCs that want to hear more, then they will come for more. You shouldn't go too much into the details. It needs to be interesting, it needs to be unique and memorable, which isn't something that you strive when writing a scientific paper. It usually needs to be stable, concise, with clear mathematical argument, but not in a sense kind of flashy and unique in a sense of presenting.
And I can imagine a lot also goes into who will actually read this paper versus how many people you have to send this pitch deck to, right?
Exactly.
So actually, I want to go back a little bit to like the communication skills, because as mentioned, you're a great storyteller. It's not just about pitching, but telling the story is super important. And is that something that you learned while as a researcher, or is that something that you had to learn, or is it something that comes naturally to you? How do you feel about that?
I would say probably naturally. During the research days, I started my PhD just before Corona. So we didn't go to a lot of conferences. I didn't present my papers live. We didn't have, just at that time, kind of everything stopped. So we were working on research, producing papers, sending it. The only feedback loop I kind of had is with Stefan, with my mentor, and with the reviewers. And that was it. So I wouldn't say that is the part that you don't really learn while you're doing AI research. And it's also when you discuss your ideas, it's to just a very specific set of people that are domain experts. It doesn't prepare you for the general audience. But I think maybe my roots, I come from Bosnia, and in the Balkans people are loud. So you need to be kind of learn to speak, to be kind of interesting if you want to get ahead.
Like break through that noise, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. You need to speak out. And it was also perfecting this during my pitching. So my first pitch wasn't that good. I remember you always think once you see me pitch, this guy has it figured out. But it's a lot of iterations for me to get to that point. So my first pitch was, one of the mentors rated it's 5 out of 10. It needs to improve. And I didn't know why. Once I realized why, it was a couple of iterations. By the time I was third, fourth, and then fifth, up to now, maybe 15th time on stage, every time it's better. So this part you kind of need to feel and learn by doing a bit.
Yeah. And are there any like specific exercises, they say, that you went through to get to that place where talking about your company just feels natural and you can engage the audience and you tell a story? Is there any particular way that you practiced or trained yourself?
I would say rehearsing, and then whenever you kind of make a mistake, mistake. So if you say something that is not, let's say, optimal, that can be better, you think about it, remember it, and then improve later on it and practice. So I think you learn by doing, you improve by doing, and you rehearse in this way. The pitch specifically, I think the best advice is to be well prepared in terms of timing. You usually have these pitches which stop at 3 minutes, at 5 minutes, and if you lose the grip on the time, if you're not well rehearsed, you can wander around and then lose 30 seconds like this. And it doesn't work, then it looks bad. So for this part, you need to time yourself properly. And then you also don't get nervous, because when that part goes smooth, when you go to the Q&A, then you're relaxed. So, but even now, I get nervous sometimes when I pitch, but it's gradually decreasing over time. Like I think right now, probably because we know each other, we're friends, I had no nervousness coming in here. But in general, there is always some of this stage fright, which is good. If you go in also completely relaxed, then maybe you mess something up.
Yeah. No, and that is a fantastic point. And I'm actually glad you bring up time, and to stay within our time. I wanna ask one final question before we open it up to the audience. And the question is, what advice would you give to someone in a similar position that you were in a few years ago? Doing your PhD, you find that you're craving that sort of like entrepreneurial, passion, that you want to pursue something. Like, what advice would you give, someone in that position?
I would say for sure try to find a good mentor, and then talk to as much people as you can about your idea to validate it. Reach out to people. In Melanie's course, for example, one of the first things we had to do is cold calling people to validate the idea. That's actually the best thing that you can do. You need to feel the market. You don't know what you don't know, and you need to get this information as fast as possible. So try to find the good mentor to accelerate learning, and talk to customers. There is a lot of information that you can get from them to validate your idea. Don't kind of do it in your own, under a glass bell, you know.
Okay, fantastic.
Cool.
So in the audience, do we have any founders? What's the? I was trying to see what's like the background here. Any founders in the audience? Any investors, researchers, anything like that? A founder? Oh, co-founder. So maybe do you have a question that you want to ask Milan?
All right. So you already got fundraised.
Sorry, I don't hear.
Do you hear now?
Yes, now it's better.
Cool. How was your first fundraising pitch? And if you already fundraised money, or you're on the way to, what you would advise to early stage startup?
Yes. So we did fundraise 3.3 million pre-seed, and it's much harder than it looks like. It involves a lot of talk to many people. I would say the best is to try to talk to the right people about the right things. So you also need to think about the investors. They are going to be your partners. It's kind of, you always say you're kind of married to your co-founders, but I would say your investors are also close family. So you need to pick who do you want in your close family. So if you have interests aligned and you know who to talk to the right people, then you can actually resonate better with them, and then you have higher probability of success. That doesn't mean you shouldn't reach out to many, because during the talks with others, you also figure out what you need to improve on and what are the things that you actually want. But it shouldn't be just going to investors thinking about, I need to close someone, whoever it is. It should be really a partnership that they see your vision and that you're aligned as well. And then, yeah, prepare well, reach out to many people, start. The more you do it, the higher probability of success it is. I always think about this in terms of binomial distribution. So your P is the probability of success. You need to increase that by talking to the right people, and your N increases the overall probability. That's the number of trials, because you get better over time.
And I think that's the researcher in you.
Yeah, always this thinking has retained with me.
Yeah, but it is true. You do have to, increase your chances. By just increasing, increase the probability of success by just increasing, the number of people you talk to, right? So I think we have time for one more question from the audience. I don't want to keep you from lunch. I know they're starting to serve it. So maybe one final question from the audience.
I am the audience. So my question would just be, what is the hardest part of being a founder, and why don't you still do it?
That's a very good one. I think for me, the hardest part is that things are not happening as fast as you would like them. So you're always ahead, and you need to deal with the problems. You need to, at the same time, deal with day-to-day, which is a lot. It can be a lot. And you need to keep the vision of where you will come aligned with you. And then when things are not happening as fast, you need to deal with this adversity and just push forward. Because I think resilience and getting things done is the most important trait of founders, despite maybe sometimes things not going your way.
Okay, well, thank you, Milan, for your time, and thank you for the audience for sticking around. That is all for now, and Milan will be around today.
Yes, I'll be
all
here
day,
for a while.
Hopefully.
For a while.
So yeah, if you
Later
have any more
we
questions,
need to get something done.
Yeah, let's eat something first. But yeah, come find us if you have any questions. And yeah, thank you again.
Thank you, everyone.